Hey guys, welcome back to Wix Fix. I hope you're having a fantastic day. In today's video, I'm going to teach you how to filter your repeaters using search and drop-down options. In previous videos, I showed you how to use a search input to filter your repeaters, and I've also showed you how to use drop-downs to filter your repeaters. But in today's video, we're going to combine both of them to make one fluid filtration system for your repeaters. And just so you know, this video does require a little bit of code, but don't worry, it will be available on my website for free, so feel free to click the link in the description. Let's go ahead and get started. So just like the other tutorials, the first thing you're actually going to need is a database. So what we're going to do, if you don't already have one, is come up to Add, go to Content Manager and press Add to Site. Now it's going to offer a bunch of presets that you can choose from, or you can choose to make your own. But for today's video, we're just going to add the preset for property listings. Now, this is going to add a couple of dynamic pages, and it's also going to open up the spreadsheet or the database collection. Now, for this video, what we're going to go ahead and do is go ahead and set the property type. We're actually going to change this field type to a tag. Now, this is going to mess up everything that's in there already, but we can easily convert these to tags pretty easily just by hovering over this exclamation mark and pressing convert. Okay, so this is going to be one of our drop-down options. Another drop-down option that we are going to have is the property status. So instead of for sale, let's go ahead and change a couple of these to lease. So we're going to go ahead and set this to lease. And we're just going to change a couple of them just like that. And we're also going to set the field type for this one to a tag as well. And just like before, we're going to go ahead and press convert, 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 and convert. And let's go ahead and bring this all the way to the front as well. And for the search, we're going to be using the title, and we're also going to go ahead and use the agent name. So we'll go ahead and bring this all the way to the front as well. So the search, we'll be able to search from agency name and title. And then the drop down, and then one drop down is going to have status, and one drop down is going to have property type. Now let's go ahead and close out, and let's go ahead and bring this down just a little bit. That way we have room to put in our inputs in our search buttons. So what we're going to do first is go to Add, Input, and let's just bring out a text input. This is going to be our search. Then we're going to come over to Add. We're going to go down to Drop Down, and let's just drag out two of these. So we're going to have Drop Down 1, and we're going to have Drop Down 2. The only other thing that we're going to need for this website is two buttons. So what we're going to do is come up to Add, Button, and we're going to drag out one button, and we're going to drag out another button, just like that. Now, what I want to do is just go ahead and make all of these elements a little bit smaller. That way they all fit on one line. And then over here to the right, we're going to have our button. This one is going to be our search button. And then this one right here, we're going to call this the reset button, which for now, we'll just go ahead and leave this off to the side. But now what we want to do is actually come over to dev mode, and we're going to turn this on. And before we actually start coding, we actually need to set some parameters for these dropdowns and name some of our elements on the page. We want this dropdown to be for our property status. So it's going to be for sale or for lease. So we'll go ahead and close out of it. We'll go into manage choices. And we only have two options. So we have for sale and for lease. So we don't need four options. We just need these two. And you're going to notice that it says vanilla and then vanilla right underneath it. Now, what this one up here is called is the label. And then the small grayed out version is the value. The value is probably the most important part because this value needs to match what's in the database. So you could name the label whatever you want. However, it would seem more professional to have them match. But what we're going to do is just go ahead and change the label to for sale. And then we're going to edit the value to for sale as well. And for For the second one, we're going to say for lease. And then we're also going to change the value to for lease as well. And then I would also suggest you go into your settings and change the placeholder to property status, or you should change it to whatever that dropdown is going to be for, which this one is going to be for status. Now for the second dropdown, this one is going to be for our property type. So it's going to be single family home, condo, or villa. So we're going to come over to this dropdown, manage choices, and this one only has 3 choices. So we're going to remove one, and we're going to say single family home. And we're going to make sure we edit the value for that as well. For the second one, it's going to be a condo. And of course, we need to change the value. And last but not least, this one's going to be the villa. And we're going to change the value for this as well. Now for this input field right here, we're going to go ahead and change this input field placeholder text to search by property or agent. And then what we want to do is select this search button, and we're going to go ahead and call this search button. Then we're going to click the reset button, and we're going to rename this to reset button. Now you will notice that I did capitalize B for both the search button and the reset button. And that's because in the coding world, you want to name all of your elements in camel case. So basically, the first letter of the first word is lowercase, but the first letter of every following word needs to be capital. Now we can go ahead and move this reset button right over the search button, just like that. And now we can actually begin to code. Now the first thing we actually need to do is import the Wix Data API. So what we're going to do is do import Wix Data from Wix Data. Now you're going to notice it is grayed out currently, and that is only because we are currently not using any code right now that is referencing this API. So as we begin to code more, you're going to notice that this code will no longer be grayed out. But let's move on to the rest of this code. So what we want to do is actually grab this search button, and we're going to go ahead and go down to this event handlers over here to the bottom right, and we're going to press add event. Now this is going to add some code to our site, and this is basically saying when the button is clicked, something needs to happen. So what we're going to do is type in search and add some parentheses. And basically it's saying when the search button is clicked, we're going to run the search function. But you're going to notice that the search function has a red line underneath it, and that's because we currently do not actually have a function named search to do anything. So let's go ahead and set up a function for search. So we're going to do function search, and then we're going to add some curly brackets. Now you're going to notice the red line under the search function in this search button click is now gone. And that's because we now have created this search function, but we still haven't done anything with it. So let's go ahead and start telling it what to do. So what we want to do first is go ahead and say Wix Data. We're going to do query, and we're going to add some quotation marks. And inside this quotation marks, we actually need to go to Content Manager, Manage Content. We're going to press this 3 dots right here and press Edit Settings. We need the collection ID. So I'm just going to copy that and exit out. And we're going to paste that collection ID right here. Now let's go ahead and press Enter. And we're going to say dot contains. And what we're going to do is go ahead and do the status one first. So let's go ahead and open up our content manager real quick. We're going to come over to the status, go into properties, and we're going to get the status field key. So we're just going to exit out now. And inside of status, inside those quotation marks, we'll type in status. On the outside of those quotation marks, we're going to do a comma. we're going to do string, and we're going to do $W, and we're going to call this one, which is Dropdown1, dot value. Okay. Then underneath that, we're going to do dot and. We're going to do Wix Data dot query, and we're going to type in the properties collection again, and then we're going to do dot contains, and then in here we want to go ahead and get the field key for the property type. So we're going to open this up, go to properties, and go to property type field key. Okay, and we're going to paste this in here, and then we're going to go ahead and add a comma, string, $W, and we're going to call the Dropdown2. And then on the outside of those parentheses, we're going to do dot value. Okay, and basically what this is saying is when the search function is ran, or when the search button is clicked, it's going to look at the values from Dropdown1 and Dropdown2. Now we need to get the search function to work as well. And basically what we're going to go ahead and do is just copy this line down to the next line. And all we need to do is just go ahead and change out this property type, and we need to change some stuff right here. So for this one, we're going to be looking for the property name. So what we're going to do is open up the database. We're going to go to title, go to properties, and get this field key right here. And we're going to type it in right there. Now, after this comma, what we want to do is do $W, and we're going to get input1. And on the outside of that, we're going to do value. So basically what this is saying is it's going to be looking for the value of this input1 to match a title for the properties. But the next thing we want to do is go down to the next line, and we're going to say .or, and we're going to go ahead and copy this over and paste it in between these parentheses, just like that. But instead of title, what we want to do is come back to the content manager, and we need to get the field key for agent name. So we're going to click on that, press properties, get the field key. And instead of title, we're going to type in agent name. So now we have set it up so where if the search button is clicked, it's going to look at the values from all three of these inputs. But now what we need to do is actually have it filter to the repeater down here. So what we're going to do is say .find. Then underneath that, we're going to say .then. We're going to type in results. We're going to do an equal sign greater than, and then we're going to do some curly brackets. And then in here, what we want to do is say $W, and we're going to grab this properties repeater. So we're going to cite properties repeater. We're going to select properties repeater. Then we're going to say .data is equal to results.items. So basically when the search button is clicked, it's going to look at these values and it's going to filter the repeater. However, now what we need to do is we actually need to hide the search button, and we need to show and enable the reset button. So underneath that, we're going to call the reset button, and we're going to show it. And we're going to copy and paste this line down here. And instead of show, we're going to say enable. Okay. And then we need to call the search button, and we need to hide it. So now we basically have a working model. However, the reset button doesn't do anything quite yet. So what we want to do is make sure that the reset button is selected. We're going to go down to this event handlers and we're going to say on click, and we're going to add this to our site. So now what we want to do is we actually need to call the data set. So we're going to say $W. We're going to say the dataset 1 or properties dataset. We need to set the filter to Wix Data filter, and we're just going to leave this empty. So basically what that's going to say is that it's going to remove all of the filters applied to this repeater. The next thing we need to do is remove any values that are in these inputs right here. So we're going to go ahead and say $W. Let's go ahead and say Dropdown 1. We're going to say .value is equal to undefined. Just like that. And let's go ahead and copy this. We'll paste it down 2 more times. For this second one, let's do Dropdown 2. And then for this third one, we're going to do input 1. And the last thing we need to do is go ahead and show the search button and hide the reset button. So we're going to say $W. We're going to say search button. We're going to show it. And then we're also just going to go ahead and copy that line down once and type in enable. And then last but not least, we're going to then hide the reset button. So we need to say reset button dot hide. Perfect. So now let's go ahead and open up the database. And now let's look for something real quick. So let's say we want to look for an apartment. We want to look for an apartment, which there are 2 of them in the database, that is for lease, and that's a condo. Now, let's say we want to remove Ashley from this one because both apartments have Ashley. So if we look up for an apartment that is for lease and is a condo, then we should get this cozy minimalist apartment. Let's go ahead and do that. So one thing I did forget actually was to hide the reset button on load. So what we want to do is right underneath the API we imported, we're going to do $W, and we're going to call the reset button .hide. Okay. Now let's go ahead and preview, and we're going to go ahead and test it out. So what we want is an apartment for lease. We want it to be a condo, and it's going to be an apartment. And we should get one option. And if we click on this option, it should be for sale by Ashley Emerson. But now let's run one more test. But now let's just say we want to look for something that is for sale by the agent name of Harris, Marcus Harris. Now, we are going to leave property type completely empty just to show that this will work. So we're going to look up for sale by Marcus. And you can see Marcus has 3 properties that he has listed, but one of them is for lease. So we shouldn't see this one here. We shouldn't see unique farmhouse. So we're going to go back over to preview. We're going to say for sale, and we're going to type in Marcus, and we're going to go ahead and press search. And we have 2 properties, and it's not the unique place. Perfect. So as you can see, you can leave some of these inputs empty, but if we reset it, of course, it's going to go back to the way it was. And then the user can then go through here and redo their own filter. Now, if you noticed when they were reset, they were turned to red, which if you don't want that, that's a pretty easy fix. All you have to do is go into the design, go from regular to air, and you can easily just change this color to whatever the color is set for regular, which is going to be this one right here. We can easily go over to air and set the color to that color as well. So then when it's reset, it's going to look like it went back to normal, no issues. But that basically wraps it up for the video today, guys. If you guys did enjoy, please consider giving this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And if you would like to use this code on your own website, be sure to click the link in the description and get it from my site below. Thank you all again, and I'll see you on the next one.